Well, what is going on, everybody? Welcome everybody into the Overreaction Buffalo post-game show on the Overreaction Sports Network, brought to you by the BFLO store, powered by Believe. I got a little crosswired there. Sorry about that. It is so good to have every single one of you joining us. My name is Joe Miller. You can find me on Twitter at Joe Miller Wired. That guy sitting next to me, former Buffalo Bill for 9 long years, Jerry Ostrowski. You can find him on Twitter at Jerry_Big O, the Swiss Army knife, as we like to call him here on the Overreaction Network. It is so good to have every single one of you guys joining us. Please do us a favor. Please like. Please subscribe, whatever platform you are consuming this vidcast on. Please hit that like button, smash it, as the young kids say, and also subscribe. And if you're listening to this in post as a podcast, you can also do the same favor for us. Please like, please subscribe. It helps get our numbers up, and we appreciate those types of things. Happy Victory Monday to you tomorrow. It is still Sunday if you're watching this live vidcast. If you're listening in post, more than likely it's a Happy Victory Monday. The Buffalo Bills finished the season 10-0 at home by defeating the Baltimore Ravens. And believe it or not, I just left the game. I just ran in the door, just jumped in with Jerry. And I have, Jerry, what was the final score?
You'd have to ask me.
25-27. So the Buffalo Bills have defeated the Ravens 27-25.
All I know is we had 2 more than they did.
I apologize, everybody. Literally, I sat in a Taco Bell drive-through for 10 minutes waiting for McKenna's tacos, and then it was about 15, and we ended up leaving because Taco Bell can't get their crap straight. But anyways, the Buffalo Bills are moving on to face the Kansas City Chiefs for the AFC Championship game for the second time since 2020. This will be the 4th time they've played them in the playoffs, having lost to prior 3. Jerry, how does this game find you this evening?
Well, I'll tell you what, man. I apologize for the lighting. I'm not at home, as you can tell. If I couldn't be in Buffalo and all the snow and cold, I chose the next best place, which is Cedar Falls, Iowa.
Love it.
It's -4 outside right now.
Woo, colder than here. Holy smokes.
Oh, dude, it's a totally different kind of cold up here, man. My wife and I even commented on the whole Buffalo cold. It's just different, man. It's different. But no, I'll tell you, it was an unbelievable game. Obviously, this team was highly motivated by comments made not only nationally, but also people, from the Baltimore camp, from some people I'm sure locally. There was a lot of people who deemed much credit, didn't think they had a chance, and man, they competed from jump. There's some things we'll talk about. There's some things that were interesting that I want to get into, as we'll get into for this deal. But all in all, that was a tough football team tonight that played a tough opponent in tough weather and found a way to get it done. And that's what great teams do. It's not about style. It's not about flash. It's about win and advance. And
that's right.
We're going to Kansas City next week.
Absolutely. We get our first super chat, and this is from a Ravens fan, Griffin Mullen Music. Griffin, I am also a musician, so super appreciative of you and your super chat, even as a Ravens fan. Ravens fan here, he says, Josh Allen for MVP. Please beat Mahomes and win the whole damn thing. Bro, I'm going to call you Griff. Griff, that is the plan, right? Yes. My wife just asked me, first of all, she says to me, so we have to go to Kansas City? And I'm like, yeah. She's like, how is that fair? She doesn't understand seeding. I'm like, they only lost 1 game, babe. Yeah, but we've played them there so many times.
Right.
And I'm like, it is what it is. But bro, good football game to your Ravens. It's interesting because you had asked me prior to us going live how the game was. The crowd was electric. The weather was, I would say, as much as it probably looked worse on TV than it was, the Patriots game a couple weeks ago was colder. Way colder.
Right.
I think because the wind was blowing in my face the whole time, and it was a little bit more of a windy day or windy evening at night. The crowd was 28-10 going into halftime, I believe is what the score was, and the crowd could feel it, right? There's 28-10, you're getting the football back, and then they go 3-and-out punt. Ravens go down, kick a field goal, 5 plays, whatever. Punt. Ravens go down. I think they scored a touchdown after that, and literally the Buffalo Bills took the crowd out of this game.
The Bills took themselves out of the crowd out of it, not the Ravens. And that's my biggest question mark to this whole game tonight is we got to the third quarter. again, remember what I told you the other day? I made the comment, I love running the football, but if in a 3-down segment, we're giving it to the running back 2 times and 17 gets it one time,
yeah,
I'm not super happy with that.
yeah,
It almost seemed like the running back was getting it 3 times, right?
yeah, yeah,
They just kind of took the wind out of the momentum sails themselves.
yeah.
There's some
Yep.
questionable play calls. There were some questionable things, and I get it. That group will go highly conservative when they need to, when they feel that's what they have to do to help that whole complementary football complex thing that they run over there. Try to help the defense and everything else. You got your wish tonight, Joe. That defensive line played a lot more. That starting group played, I think, a lot more. Now, we'll see snap counts here in the next day or two, but it seemed to me anyway they played a lot more, especially down the stretch without the rotational piece. But yeah, until halfway through the fourth quarter when it was like, oh, maybe we need to hit the gas again and go score, and then they started relying on Josh again, and he was making plays. Now, and the other thing, and we'll get into it as the show goes on, but some of the calls with him running the ball were a little bit questionable as well. We'll get into that. But but no, I mean, the highlight obviously to me of this game was the competitive nature, the physicality, and the way the defense played, and the willingness of the staff to blitz and take chances, because you saw what happened late in the game when we only rushed 4. Wasn't very good, right? But no, the defensive side, including the staff, was the highlight of the game as well. And then, of course, my dude of the game was also a highlight, and I'm not going to give it away, but
Don't give it away.
We'll talk about him as well.
So before I welcome to everybody in the chat, in the comment section over on YouTube, and if you were watching us on Facebook or X, Twitter, please jump over to YouTube, Overreaction Buffalo. Join the community there. It's much more fun, much more interactive as far as that goes. John Fina is not with us because John is with his son Bruno. They too were at the game. If you follow me on Twitter, you saw that. They were in the ritzy club seats.
Exactly. That's my point. John soft. I was with my family too, but I found the way to get here on the post-game show. John not only sits in the giant aquarium in the end zone, the terrarium, that's what we used to call it. It's like a giant terrarium, and then he can't be, so anyway, excuses are excuses, man, whatever.
My guess is he probably could find his way down to the press room, and that was the one thing we did not get a tour of yesterday. Was the press room. I would have liked.
Yeah, I was going to say you probably aren't saying anything bad about John Fina today.
No,
I already know that he's now your favorite. He's your exclusive favorite. I'm on the outside looking in.
I have no favorites. But getting back to this football game, the two things that stick out to me as it pertains to the Buffalo Bills beating the Ravens the way that they did, I guess it'd be 3 things. It felt like, and you kind of alluded to it, inferred it, they uglied it down a little bit, right? So they kept it scrummy, but they got a 28-10 lead, which effectively removes Derrick Henry's kind of like presence from the football game in that first half. I mean, even going into the second half, as much as they stepped on themselves in the second half for a couple drives there, but I thought that was important. And at the end of the day, keeping Derrick Henry at bay and like minimizing that threat, but it was the turnovers, Jerry. You always talk about turnovers, and I know a lot of the guys and people, we know turnovers are important, but three turnovers, and they were all at crucial times. The first one did not pay off, the interception, I believe, and then the fumble. And then the fumble by Mark Andrews, very not normal for this football team to, like, Mark Andrews doesn't fumble the football. Like Lamar Jackson doesn't really fumble the football. He has had some this season. He also doesn't throw interceptions. That was his 5th interception on the season. And I got to feel like Jerry, does weather spook players? Is it a situation where you get up there and it's like, we play in the cold too? And then you get there and it's like, oh.
It doesn't freak players out. The thing about weather is it just makes it hard to perform. The football changes the way it is. It's hard. It's slippery. It's just your footing goes away. There's so many more. As an athlete, when you're doing things and you're running a route and you're doing different motions, you're not thinking about, are my cleats going to stay in the ground? Right. Is the ball coming at me a new one, or has it been in the game a while? All these different things. You just do your deal and you make the play.
Right.
When you throw weather into it, now all of a sudden in the back of your mind, you're like, I've got to shorten my cut down. I can't cut normally because I got to keep my cleats under me, and my feet's got to stay inside of my hips and my shoulders. And, there's so many other things you got to be cognizant of. And that's what it is. I mean, they don't fear weather. It just makes it difficult.
Yeah. So when you look at the situation, I mean, I'd love to. I want to get your take on the what I felt was a huge lack of RPOs in this game.
Yeah.
Like they didn't live on that mesh point that they live on normally. But before I get to that, the fumble by Lamar Jackson was bizarre in as much as he looked like he just dropped, like he put it on the ground. Like it was a very weird,
slipped out of his hand,
like right on the ground. And then the play by Terrell Bernard to punch that football out of Mark Andrews' arm was like unbelievable. And obviously to jump on it. And it was great seeing Phillips carry him off the field. That was pretty funny too. But what did you see? Was it the weather? Was it the climate, the situation in the stadium? Did you see the Bills doing something to them to keep them out of that RPO thing? Like what did the Bills do to keep them from wanting to do that?
Well, I think a big part of the RPO thing, again, is what? It's ball handling, right? Mm-hmm. When you have really bad weather and you're trying to mesh and hold it, then pull it out and do all those different things, you put yourself at risk for turnover. They get enough running yards with Derrick Henry and Hill that I don't think the RPO game was necessary for them. I mean, I think their game plan was more conservative due to weather than anything. I don't think it was but when you watch this game, to me anyway, the thing that was intriguing was, especially the first half, the Bills beat the Ravens at the Ravens game.
Right.
And it was awesome to watch. I talked about it Thursday. I talked about the offensive line, how, again, that was my key to the game. And, again, they showed up and performed super, super well, just creating running lanes. And us running the football like we did on them, I don't think anybody understands how big of a deal that is.
Yeah.
Even if the third quarter was iffy, they made adjustments out of halftime and they shut us down. But us running the ball like that was huge.
One of the biggest plays of the game was the third possession in the second half. And they immediately handed the ball off on first down to James Cook. And McKenna, she's my daughter, right? And obviously our kids do to us when we're wrong because we're dads. Oh yeah, like literally as soon as they hand the ball off to Cook, he's going up the middle, and I was like, wrong play. And then he stuck his foot in the ground because there was nothing there, drove it outside, and I think he picked up 8 yards, which was just a huge play. Clearly the ball wasn't designed to go outside there, but I mean, it was good for Cook to kind of start looking to kind of get outside and do some of those things. I was going to ask you another question. I completely forgot.
No, I want to kind of elaborate on that point
please
you just made. It's really hard to move the Ravens' interior defensive line.
Yeah.
They're an old school defensive tackle interior line. They are 350, 340. They're huge men, and you're not going to vertically move them.
Right.
So what the Bills do so well, we talked about this before, is horizontal displacement, getting players moving by you then moving and making the gaps move. Well, those inside guys can't really keep as good a gap integrity when you got guys who are going horizontal because they just don't move as well. So that causes the defense, the ends and the linebackers and such to have to crash. And when they do crash, that's when you lose contain and Cook can put his foot in the ground and bounce outside and get those outside runs. We did a really good job of mixing things up. I'm sure John will touch on it on if he does the show tomorrow. I'm sure he'll touch on it tomorrow or whenever he does off tackle.
I didn't think about that.
Some of the runs. Yeah, exactly. He'll probably be in the air.
Flying out of 12. We'll see what happens.
I figured he'd have a PJ by now. We wouldn't have to worry about this. He could just broadcast from the plane or get himself home in time. But, it's one of those deals where we just are so athletic and we're so able to mix things up. Huge props to the three inside dudes.
Yeah.
Torrance, McGovern, and Edwards played tremendous today inside to be able to get those runs going. And, yeah, man, it was awesome to see. And it just it really took pressure. That took pressure off of Josh trying to get the ball downfield because, as we know, we just don't have a lot of home run hitters.
Yeah, for sure. It was an interesting football game as far as that goes. Nobody broke out. Nobody broke free. There were some decent plays, and it looked like at some point in time the Ravens started to kind of pull in, and they were like, we're not going to let Josh Allen throw the ball deep. So he started taking some of those easy underneath throws. The Bills committed just to grinding it out, to running the football. There was the 1 3rd down play to Dawson Knox. It was 3rd and 5, and they threw that little loopy tight end screen, and the whole crowd was like, "What are you doing? Like, why? What is happening right now?"
I was one of those.
It wasn't even a read. It was literally like snap throw, and like so that was the play call. If it works, Joe Brady's a genius, right? As far as that goes. And then I thought what was interesting too is when they got down to the 2-yard line, 2.5, wherever it was, for that last field goal before they took the timeout. It's interesting to me to hear on the radio on the drive home, like they're kind of like questioning the whole thing. And I know in the press room, in the presser, they questioned Sean McDermott, like, whatever. Or maybe Sean McDermott offered it up. He said, I took that timeout because I was considering going for it. The crowd is like, you kick the field goal.
Right.
Take the points. And on the radio, like they're like, I guess you kicked the field goal. And Sean McDermott is at a point now where if he goes for that touchdown there and misses it on 4th down, and they go down and score just like they did, we're right back. All the people that are like, I don't know why he kicked the field goal.
Exactly. He's damned if he does, damned if he doesn't. He can't win.
100%.
The only thing that cures any of it is to win the Super Bowl. That's it. Period. End of discussion.
100%.
And that's 100%. Just and he understands that. That's the role of a head coach, right?
Yep.
But I will say this, and I think Romo was all over the place today. He was trying to be real. He was trying to watch what he said. He was like the complete 180 of Troy Aikman yesterday, who just let it go, right?
Right.
He was real careful with what he said about Lamar and Josh. He didn't want to show favoritism to either of them. Unlike Ryan Clark, he didn't want to step on anybody's toes. But I do agree with his assessment down there. You've got Joe Frazier at quarterback. Nobody has stopped tush push yet, right?
Right.
I'd have run. He said I'd have run it twice. I'd have run it on the 2 and I'd have run it on the 1.
Right.
Instead, we go to shotgun and we run the play that we've run all season long. I mean, they were ready for that play. I mean, that's the quarterback counter is what we run. That's our quarterback counter. We run it a million times.
Yep. I
didn't like that play, but I will say this. If we're inside the 1 or the 1, and we know I probably would. I wouldn't. I'd have had no problem going for it.
Yeah. I would probably potentially agree. 3 yards was a lot. There's just an aspect of like you're going up by 8. You go for, and the reason you go up by 8 is because they need the 2-point conversion, and that's not automatic, which we saw twice in this football game. And what's funny about even the listening on the radio, and the dude that I'm talking about on the radio, and I'm not going to name names, I'm not going to disparage necessarily, but I'm going to infer, then talks about the Ravens ensuing possession, driving down the field and scoring with 1:30 left. And literally they scored too fast. That's the answer. Because even if they had gotten the 2-point conversion, Josh Allen's got the football now with three timeouts and 2 timeouts, and the entire in 1:30, you're giving Josh Allen 1:30 and 2 timeouts to get down the field. Game over, right? That's Josh. That's Lamar Jackson is that guy for all intents. He just did it on this football field. And literally this dude says, I'm not going to blame them for like throwing a touchdown there. They needed a touchdown. Oh, that's ridiculous. And it's like, I have heard you talk about the Bills scoring too fast 100 times. And now all of a sudden it doesn't matter. So literally it was interesting to see there. I know they needed the touchdown, and it was a beautiful pass. It was a beautiful catch, but literally got there too fast. Now, obviously it didn't matter at the end because they didn't execute the 2-point conversion. But even if they had executed it, I mean, you're hoping Josh Allen makes a mistake, who hasn't made a whole lot of mistakes this year, didn't make a mistake in this football game. It was just it was an interesting sequence at the end. Go ahead.
Right, and that's the thing that I got people on social that are saying things like, Lamar, you didn't lose that game, dog. Andrews dropped that on you. This. I'm like, bro, he turned the ball over twice. That's two possessions they don't have. It's what we talked about Thursday. getting off the field on third down and intangibles. If you turn teams over, that's one less possession they have. That's one less chance for Derrick Henry to beat you up.
Let's be honest. That interception he threw was a bad interception. I will say this. I was paying attention coming out of the half. You know, the kicker and the plays and the punter come out early along, and then the quarterback usually comes out early as well, and they start warming up and throwing. I was watching Lamar Jackson throw coming out of halftime. And quarterbacks, you know, as much as, you know, I played baseball and I played softball and stuff like that, and I can place the ball where I want. Quarterbacks are pretty much, the ball comes in tight spiral, bang, right here on the whoever's catching, bang, right here every time. And I'm watching Lamar, and the ball's kind of like a little bit off the mark. Like even in that warm up, it's a little bit all over the place. Josh Allen, bang, right, like right in the face. Like I'm watching the two of them do it, bang, right in the face. And I would say this. We had the opportunity to have we had the opportunity to watch the Chiefs game yesterday with a group of people. Joel Allen, Josh's dad, was there, and one of the things Joel said was like, Josh just loves playing in the cold. And it was like, what? Because who enjoys playing in sub-freezing temperatures? But he does. You see it. Like I don't know that it bothers him.
It doesn't bother guys. It doesn't bother 6'5", 255-pound quarterbacks like it does other guys. It doesn't. I mean, it's big men weather, right? I mean, but it's just I look at this. I look at the Ravens, and I'm like, they're so similar to the Philadelphia Eagles, and obviously Lamar is a exponentially better quarterback than Jalen Hurts. It's not even. I'm not comparing those two. But they do have deficiencies. Hurts has a lot of deficiencies. Lamar does as well. Now you take Derrick Henry out of the equation, and the way that we frustrated them in the first half, and that's why he threw the pick. That's why he threw the ball into the ground on the 2-point conversion. When things get like that, he tends to get all over the place.
Yeah.
They went out this offseason and signed Derrick Henry for that reason and that reason only, to take pressure off of Lamar Jackson. Period. And you saw what it did to him. You saw that with the season he had. Philly did the same thing when they went out and got Saquon. They knew they had a deficiency in Hurts and some things he did, and they went and got Saquon to take pressure off, and Saquon won the football game for him today.
Yes, he
plain
did.
And simple. Them and the offensive line.
205 yards rushing.
Right. So it's like, say what you will, we're not going out and trying to sign – some home run hitter running back to take pressure off of Josh Allen. If anything, we're bitching that he doesn't have the ball more, which is what happened in the third and early in the fourth, until we said, okay, we need to score more points and quit trying to protect this lead, and got him back involved again. But I give Josh all the praise in the world, because I know it probably drives a competitor like him. It's got to drive him absolutely freaking insane to not have the ball more in those situations. But he's doing what's called, and he's doing it well. And when his number is called, he's executing. And I think this season for him is probably his best season as a pro. Just, if not just numbers, but the fact that he is playing within structure all the time.
I think that's the word right there. We've talked about it on this show a bunch. Like, we actually saw him turn the corner on this show, where he finally decided to start taking the easy throws. He did that a bunch in this game. There was a couple double hitches where he was like, whoop, I'm going to go out here instead, and got positive yardage. It's paramount to the development and to that kind of like career arch. Like, he's got to learn it, and he has learned it. And yes, to your point, I feel like he has been a different quarterback this year. Now, there were times in this game that I wanted to see him test that defense. There was times in this game, and I think what I want to ask you is, going into that second half, the Buffalo Bills are up 21-7. There's people fighting in the comment section right now because, there's
one guy who's
the Bills didn't win the game. They
lost his mind, and the Ravens lost it. The rest of them are letting them have it. So let the piranha go. They'll take care of the situation.
Right. But I mean, even when you look at that, so if I'm going to lean into, big dubs, Victory Monday, which I forgot to say. No, I did say Victory Monday. Like, happy Victory Monday. Like, dub is a dub is a dub. We're going to Kansas City for the AFC Championship game. We're one game away from the Super Bowl. all of which that are still in play are teams we can beat, right? I mean, that's what we're talking about right now. Every single team that's left, the 3 teams that are left are beatable teams by the Buffalo Bills. But what I want to ask you, playing devil's advocate, is we have not seen it this year, or we haven't seen it much in the last, I don't know how many weeks. Did the Bills, I've said before, the Mafia has said before, content creators have said before, that like when the Bills get a decent sized lead going into the second half, a lot of times it feels like they take their foot off the gas. Like, hey, we're going to get more conservative. Do you feel like it was that, or was it just a play calling, or was it just a lack of execution kind of going into that second half?
I think they got conservative. And I think, and we talk about it, and it is a really big deal in that building. I think that while McDermott has given up calling defense, and McDermott's given up a lot of things, and he's now just more of a figurehead coach on the sideline making decisions like he should be.
Mm-hmm.
I do believe that they really talk about that whole complementary aspect and burning clock and not putting the defense in a bad spot and putting yourself at risk with turnovers and doing. So I think that third quarter, they spent that third quarter trying to, the only term I could say to use would be take Baltimore into the deep end a little bit and drag them into the fourth and give yourself the best chance to win without making drastic mistakes like Lamar did in the first half. I think that is totally talked about. And I think that the play calling was indicative of that conversation. I do think that they went somewhat conservative, but I also do think that Baltimore made some adjustments and did some good things. Defensively.
That's a good coaching staff. That's a good coaching staff over there.
The difference for us is the difference for us when you look at some teams and their margin of error is bigger than ours. Our margin of error is not very big, and it goes right back to the fact that we don't have a wideout that can win continually deep or put pressure on a defense deep. When they started rolling guys and getting those guys involved in the running game, the secondary, and you were having man-to-man situations outside, I thought maybe we would see Coleman run some go routes or some things where he would get in some jump ball situations at least, which he does really well, or some back shoulder throws that he does really well. Amari, obviously, I don't know if they've lost faith in him or he's just shown his age as the season's gone along, but he had the one target today where he tried to come and break on the out route and he was late.
It looked like a miscommunication from the stands.
Well, it was a definite out route. I don't know if he ran the route too deep and couldn't get back to it.
Gotcha.
The ball was thrown too short, or if he was held a little bit. Cooper came up with his palms up, which is the universal sign of, I won't say it, but
WTF.
Yeah, and it was like, that's where our margin of error is. We're right now doing it with superior offensive line play and a superior quarterback and running backs that are by committee, because again tonight, Ray Davis comes in off the concussion, doesn't practice hardly all week, and played. I thought Ray probably should have got more carries.
He looked good.
I think he was. And then Johnson has been in spots when they put him in, he just continues to produce. And our tight ends as well, although our tight ends did not have a great night tonight catching the ball.
Yeah.
Shakir continues to be the premier guy. But yeah, I really wish if we had that wideout, I really
It's
do.
funny. You talk about Shakir. I got 2 things before I get to the stats. You talk about Shakir, and they kind of shut that noise down. First half, Shakir was open all over the field, and then second half, the Ravens were like, no more of that. Like we're done with this, with number 10 beating us on the field. The Buffalo Bills seem to have no answer, no answer for Isaiah Likely and Mark Andrews. Wide open, like Lamar Jackson. I think the most surprising thing for me watching this football game from the stands is not that Lamar Jackson had time, is not that his offensive line was good. It was that he elected to stay in the pocket, right? Because Lamar Jackson is a guy that likes to operate outside of structure as much as Josh does. He's just the guy that likes to probably get there still even faster because he's far more dangerous with his feet. But he elected to stand there. I'm just going to stand here, and now he's open. And not only was whoever he was thrown to open, wide open. And it was
Again,
just like,
it's indicative of there's another mismatch in size. We're trying to have Taron Johnson, who's not very big, cover really big, strong, highly athletic tight ends for a long period of time. I thought the Bills did a wonderful job tonight, cage rushing Lamar, keeping him in the pocket. We lost contain a couple times and he hopped out, but nothing drastic. But you saw that our pressure came when we brought 5.
Right.
Our pressure came when we brought 5 or 6 or whatever. We got 0 pressure with 4-man rush. Yeah. And, that's something that you're just going to have to live with. And I think that the Bills have done a really good job, that coaching staff wise. They know what we do well. They know what we don't do well. And they rely on the things we do well and try to keep ourselves in good situations. And, just the way it is.
Yeah, Bella says I think it was good. We knew that I think the one I'm looking for. Where's the one I'm looking for? It was about Lamar. Where'd it go? There was a comment in here that I wanted to pull up a second ago about Lamar Jackson. Anyway, it was interesting because I felt like for me, Josh was trying to run. But they were getting to him. They were actively getting him. Lamar was choosing not to. The Bills were doing something against Lamar where Lamar was not getting out. Go ahead.
Look at our defensive ends, Joe. We've got Groot, who's a long guy who is long in space and takes up room. And then you got Epinesa, who's not great bull rushing or physicality wise, but he's really good in space and runs really well. Yep. Those two dudes did a really good job of, when he broke contain, usually it was when they had Dwayne Smoot in.
Right.
And Dwayne was, if he saw, it was like, it was like a worm on a hook. If he saw inside light, he was going to it, man. It was like a moth to a light. He was just, and when Lamar broke out, it was usually when Smoot was in, and it was usually on his side. But no, they did a really good job. And I thought Babbage and those guys had a hell of a game plan. And then again, we talk about it all season long, number 1 turnover team in the league, and you get a couple of them tonight in big situations.
The Bills need it.
Hey, you can complain all you want, man. The defense got it done. Period.
The defense got it
End
done.
of discussion.
The Bills need those turnovers. It's how they win football games. Last thing before I go to the stats officially, I think the frustrating thing for me, the only frustrating thing for me in this football game, it's 21. I may have said 21-7 earlier. It's 21-10 coming out of the half. You score. You don't go conservative. Whatever the play calls were that they decided to do, you come out hot second half. You go up 28-10. This game is basically over. I'm not saying it's over, but it's basically, sorry. And then you have a different set of play calls on that, specifically that drive where it ends on the 2.5. You talked about the third down play. You score a touchdown there, the game is over. Like, and I'm not a coach and I'm not a play caller. I didn't play football for 9 years at the NFL level. There's just an aspect of like, what are we doing here, fellas? Like we can put this game away.
Yeah, but they weren't the first drive of the third quarter was the same play calling we made in the first half. And it wasn't conservative then. We ran those plays in the third. And
they got some yards. They produced some yards.
They produced some yards, but we got stuffed on some things. We got behind the chains on a holding call or something. I can't remember what it was, but it was like, they made some adjustments and played better run defense. And now after that drive, and I'd like to see a little bit more Josh, but it was, I don't think you say they went conservative right away because they're running stuff that worked in the first half. And, it's just kind of how it goes. But I don't know, man. It was just again, we beat we beat the Ravens with good run defense.
Yeah,
and we beat them with running the football, which is absolutely awesome. If you'd have told me that's how we'd have won, I'd have said you're crazy.
And I'm not trying to be negative. I hope you know that, right? I'm trying to just talk about the things that maybe we should talk about that are on the this wasn't as great side, but we beat the Ravens, which are. The Ravens are one of the best teams in the NFL.
So what would you have liked them to do? Because everybody seems to be on your side that we went conservative, which to me, we're running the same plays around in the first half. What would you have liked them to do when they came out on third? Go empty and just start gunning it downfield?
Not gunning it downfield. I think there's a balance, or there's a There's a mode between gunning it downfield and we're going to run it 3 times coming out of the half. Understanding the situation, if we score a touchdown here, we have broken their back. It's 28-10. They're getting the football back. I feel like the Buffalo Bills have the creativity. They've got the play calling. They find the plays when they need them, right? To get 5 yards, to get 3 yards, to get 7 yards. It's not about going for 30-yard plays. Like, I'm not talking about whole shots here. There's just an aspect of like, there's an urgency to it. There was an urgency on the first drive of the game, right? You could feel it. Like the Bills were like, we need to execute and we need to make sure that we score a touchdown on this drive. And they did. It just felt like it was more to your point. Well, these things have been working. Let's call these 3 plays. Oh, we're punting now. That's just how it felt. And then it, you know, it turtle shelled a little bit. It's like, oh, all right.
But I think it, and again, I've made the statement. We went conservative in the third and half of the fourth.
Yeah, for sure.
So before everybody tries to tell me that I don't agree with what you're saying,
no, you said that for sure. 100%.
But to come out of the second half, we were running and doing things we did successfully in the first half.
Yeah,
they stopped us. Yes, I wish we would have done some different stuff, but in retrospect, we were doing what was working. So,
yeah,
you know, and here's the other thing. If we'd have scored a touchdown out and double dipped, that wasn't a kill shot. There was no kill shots in that game. That team is good. They come right back and do whatever. I mean, you saw we went up. We went up by what? How many points you go up by?
You drive the field and take 7 minutes off, conservatively speaking, 7 minutes off the clock.
But how do you take 7 minutes off the clock?
What in that first drive?
Yeah, 6 you run the football.
Right. I'm just saying the Bills have been known lately for having decent amount of time drives. 6 minutes, 7 minutes, whatever. And yes, you're going to have to run the football. Regardless, even if it's a 3-yard pass, the clock is still running, right? You're going to have to consume time. But if you take 6-7 minutes off the clock and you're up 28-10, that game is, barring a whole lot of prevent defense that's not going well and them like hitting huge strikes downfield, that game is pretty much over.
The only thing I'm saying is this, is that with us having 17 at quarterback, I want him to be more involved. Yeah, whatever those play calls are, I don't care what they are. I want him to be more involved.
What I love about you, Jerry, and this is 100% true, and I haven't said this before, is in this regard, is you want the Buffalo Bills to run the football, but not at the cost of making sure that Josh Allen is still the focal point of the offense, because you realize how valuable he is.
We waited 17 years to get a guy that's a Hall of Fame quarterback, and you're going to turn him into a handoff machine?
Right.
Come on.
Exactly.
I don't think that's I don't think that's crazy. I think it's kind of common sense, isn't it?
It seems like it. Yeah. So I'm going to jump into the stats because I've threatened to do it a couple times. And by the way, I've 30 whatever minutes in. My voice is hoarse from screaming at Vaughn to run faster after picking up that fumble. So just in case anybody's wondering why I sound the way that I sound. Josh Allen in this football game, 16 of 22, 127. It was funny. This is one thing I will say about the crowd. You asked me how the environment was, how the stadium was. They were sarcastically chanting MVP at Lamar when he would make mistakes. So when he threw the interception, the crowd started chanting MVP. When he fumbled the football,
some fan bases are rude as hell. Ours are sarcastic and passive aggressive. They're as good as anybody.
It was pretty. I don't know if you can hear it on TV, but it was funny. Like when he threw that interception, the crowd immediately starts chanting MVP. It was like, you gotta be kidding me right now. It was great. James Cook, 17 carries for 67 yards, 3.9 per carry. Ty Johnson, 5 for 31, 6.2. Ray Davis, 4 for 29, 7.2. To your point, Ray Davis had himself a pretty good. He actually would have had more than that, except he slid on that last carry to end the game. Khalil Shakir, 6 for 67, 11.2. James Cook, 3 for 15. Matt Collins, 1 for 12. A big play for Matt Collins. It was an important play that he caught, that ball that he caught. Dalton Kincaid, 1 for 11, was very much kind of quiet in this football game. Curtis Samuel 2 for 9, Ty Johnson 1 for 8, Keon Coleman 1 for 5, Dawson Knox 1 for 0, and then Amari was targeted once. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 targeted guys, 8 catching. So catching passes. So we're back in that everybody eats category. DeMar Hamlin with a sack, Greg Rousseau with a sack, Taylor Rapp with an interception. And then the fumble recovery by Vaughn, and the fumble recovery by Terrell Bernard kind of wraps that up for the Buffalo Bills. The Ravens offensively, Lamar Jackson was 18 to 25, 254 for 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, a bad one at that. Derrick Henry 16 for 84. The Bills kept him in check, right? And that's what you want. And then Lamar Jackson only had 39 rushing yards. So they did a very good job. Justice Hill, that dude is I don't want to say electric, but man, that kid can play football.
Tulsa, Oklahoma, Booker T. Washington, bro.
Yeah. 6 for 50, 8.3 yards. Mark Andrews, the 2 tush pushes, right? For 2 for 3 yards. Isaiah Likely led the day, receiving 4 for 73 with a touchdown. Rashad Bateman, 4 for 66. I don't think this is any surprise. These are their 3 guys. Mark Andrews, 5 for 61. And then a bunch of guys that I don't really know who they are anyways. Team stats. They basically owned us in the team stats, but it came down to those 3 turnovers. Total yards for the Ravens, 416, for the Buffalo Bills, 273. Passing yards, 240 to 126. Rushing, 176 for the Ravens to 147 for the Bills, which 147 is a respectable number against the Ravens. 7.3 yards per play for the Ravens, 4.6 for the Bills. First downs, 23 to 20. 7 for 10 on a third down efficiency, which is a number the Buffalo Bills are going to be looking at, I feel like, this week. They've got to be better there. The Bills were 5 of 11, just under that magical 50% number. Fourth down efficiency, 1 for 1 for both teams. Total plays, 57 to 59. Sacks allowed, 2 for the Ravens, 1 for the Bills. Punts, 3 for the Bills. The Ravens did not punt in this football game. They have a no punt game, which is
once?
Not ideal. The Bills punted 3 times.
3 times.
Yeah, Bills punted 3 times. 2 in the second half, or 2 in the beginning of the second half. Penalties, 5 for 43. Oh, that was what I wanted to say. Dude, the referees, I don't know what it looked like on TV, but there was a lot of late hits out of bounds that the referees were not calling.
Yeah, there was many questionable calls. The Deion Dawkins holding call was garbage. I thought
that was garbage. Yes,
I thought I'll probably get lit up, but I'm fine with it. I thought the PI on Keon Coleman wasn't very good.
I didn't see it
either. If anything, that looked like dad throwing his kid around on the field. I mean, he just kind of ragdolled White. The late hit out of bounds, they called it a continuation of an on the field tackle, which is why that's the explanation that the game ref gave the guy on TV.
I forget who the defender. It was a Terrell Bernard. No,
I can't remember who it was, but they called it. They said a continuation of an inbounds tackle that went out of bounds.
He grabbed him 1.5 yards out of bounds and then carried him to the ground.
Right. There was a lot of stuff, and I think, what did the Bills end up with? Not very many penalties, I don't believe.
1 of 10. 1 for 10.
1 of 10.
It was a holding call. It was a holding call.
So and it was the holding call on Deion, which was trash. But
which
you got a different style of game. I mean, this is a crew that's thrown more holding calls than any other crew in the league this year, and they didn't throw obviously as many this game. And unlike last night's Chiefs game where they called everything and made stuff up, tonight they hardly called anything. But yes, there was a lot of questionable stuff.
The official that threw the flag that's opposite the head official behind Josh Allen was trying to tell Deion Dawkins what he did wrong there, and Deion wasn't having any of it.
No,
because Deion then saw the replay and he was like, "What are we doing?" Like
what Deion did, he did get a little bit of a jersey pull, but not much, and I think that's what he saw and that's what he called. But it was trash. It was textbook technique.
To wrap it up, time of possession, interceptions thrown, fumbles lost, 2 for the Ravens, none for the Bills, and then interceptions thrown, 1 for the Ravens and none for the Bills. 28-16, and the Buffalo Bills did win. The only place they won was in time of possession at 31 minutes, 44 seconds. So all around good football game from the Buffalo Bills. Turnovers. The interception did not hurt the Ravens, but the other 2 did. Right,
intangibles, man. It was intangibles, and we talk about all the time in huge games against heavyweight opponents. It's intangibles. We performed in the turnover area. We performed in special teams, and huge in games like this. And this is what, 10 games in a row or some crazy statistic like that the Bills have not turned the football over. Insane.
Yeah, it is insane, and you've been talking about it for I don't know how many weeks. You've been talking about it for a lot of weeks. That turnover differential is the most important thing to keeping the Bills in the win column, because they're not super adept at stopping teams, as we just saw in this game. No punts from the Ravens, but 3 turnovers, right? So 2 fumbles and an interception. I am not prepared for my dude award. Who do I want to give my dude award to in this football game?
I've got 2 I could give it to.
Yeah, why don't you give 2? Because I'm struggling. I haven't even given it a thought. By the way, injury. What happened to Taylor Rapp? I saw Cole Bishop in the game.
Taylor Rapp, they're saying, is a hip injury, that he jammed his leg. He stepped funny and jammed his leg up into his hip. There's been some speculation it could be a labrum injury. Hips are real weird, man. They got real terrible blood flow, and usually when something happens, there's a disruption, they tend to get worse. So hopefully that's not the case. That's why they are really, really, really cognizant. They overprotect guys with hip injuries, because they can really go to something else if you don't watch them. But Rapp's injury was listed as a hip. And then Taryn came back in the game.
Yes.
He landed on an outstretched arm, and it could have been a sublux where he subluxed his arm when he landed. Probably more than anything, I think Dr. Brad talked about it on the Discord channel. Probably more of an impingement, but he did come back in the game and seemed to be fine, and played the rest of the game after a couple plays out.
Yeah, for sure. What was going on with Taylor Rapp? I was about to make a joke. I was going to disparage him on the first Ravens touchdown, where Rasul Douglas was back there, and like the whole play happened behind him. Like somehow they got over the top of the free safety, which is not supposed to happen. But you can't answer that question.
Some of that stuff, and it especially happened on the play where we stopped him from the 2 and forced him to a field goal, where DeMar was late getting there because he was poking his head in the backfield. Right. Usually, what happens there in those instances, it's they're running cover 3. So the cornerback understands I've got to play outside leverage. So his back is to the sideline. Nothing gets outside of me, and forces everything in the middle of the field, because you're expecting your one high safety to be back there to give you center field help. Okay. What happens is you run any kind of play action or anything, and that safety starts poking in the backfield. He's late to his back pedal. He gets late to his pedal. Douglas is expecting help. That mesh isn't there because the safety's late and the ball gets over the top. And that's what happened there. So without seeing that first play, that might have been the same instance.
Gotcha. Well, why don't you give us your two dude awards, and I'll set it up. And for everybody that doesn't know that is joining us, and there's a lot of new names in the comment section that I have not seen before. So welcome to all of you. So a lot of guys give arrow up, arrow down, thumbs up, thumbs down. We do the dude awards. So when the Buffalo Bills win a football game, it's basically the award is dude, great job, good job today. And if they lose, then it's typically dude, you got to be better. Like we gotta talk, bro. And we generally speaking don't give the dude award to Josh Allen, because the statue basically has Josh Allen's figurine on it, because he is that dude. So why don't you go ahead and give us 2 dude awards to make up for my lack of dude award, and some are actually thrown in the comment section, which is great.
My first dude award would be the guy who had 5 attempts and was 5 for 5, and people were extremely down on him all season. And when you're in the middle of a huge playoff game at home with a terrible field and terrible weather and wind, he executed a 51-yarder. So 2 for 2 on field goals, 3 for 3 on extra points, responsible for 9 points of the point outage today for the Bills. That'd be Tyler Bass.
I'm not going to lie. That 51-yarder, I was like, this is the football game.
Yes.
He doesn't make that kick there, and the Bills are in a lot of trouble.
Without a doubt. So Tyler Bass is my first dude award, and since I get 2 today because John's not here, I'm going to pick this guy who did not have a huge stat sheet, but played like he used to play back in the day, with tremendous anticipation, tremendous speed, and was single-handedly the dude that harassed Lamar Jackson all day, kept him in the pocket, was a big part of that cage rush concept that the Bills ran today. 3 tackles, 1 solo, 3 quarterback hits. That would be none other than number 58, Matt Milano. I thought that Milano's presence was seen from the first snap until the last snap. He had a tremendous game.
And a tip on the first 2-point conversion.
Yes,
so
and
he tipped that away, which was freaking fantastic.
That is what you expect from him. Extreme athleticism, making plays in the passing game, and just tremendous game by Matt.
Yeah, the best part of one of the best things about that is that clearly Matt Milano was not in on that first football game, and there was a lot of Ravens talking smack about like what difference is Matt Milano going to make in this football game. I
also agree with Peter. I think it was 2 takeaways, but he said 3. But limited the Ravens offense due to the whole defense. I would not have a problem if somebody picked the whole defense either.
It was 3 interception, 2 fumbles.
That's right.
It was
interception, 2 fumbles, so 3.
Yeah, it was 3 for sure. But yeah, it was great to see the 3 guys, specifically Terrell Bernard, Matt Milano, like the guys that Taron Johnson have a huge impact in this football game. The guys that were not there for that first football game that the wheels basically came off of, right? So when the Ravens beat us, but thank you everybody for joining us. This has been a freaking fantastic show. The Buffalo Bills are moving on to play the Kansas City Chiefs in the AFC Championship game. We are 1 game away from the Super Bowl. Yes, Jerry.
And I want to say this: I have never seen a face to heel turn this extreme since Hulk Hogan came out in the NWO t-shirt when he went from face to heel. This is the first time in a long time. I think the Buffalo Bills might actually be rooted for across the country this week. Because after this past week, I think the Kansas City Chiefs are not the darlings anymore. The face turn of Patrick Mahomes to heel has been epic, and I love every bit of it.
Very much so. Before I get us out of here, for all of you that are tuned in, please take a listen to this video that I forgot to share at the top of the show. So please, hopefully nobody gets mad at me.
Shopping for that special occasion? The BFLO store is the perfect place to begin for all things Buffalo. You'll discover the largest selection of Buffalo products and brand collabs not available anywhere else. From licensed team sportswear and gifts to Buffalo apparel and home decor. Visit any of our convenient locations or shop online. You'll find something for everyone. And you just never know who you may see shopping there. The BFLO store, Western New York's premier retail destination. Official retailer of the Buffalo Bills and Sabres.
Let's go BFLO as the official retailer of the Buffalo Bills. The BFLO store has you covered with all things Buffalo sports, city themed and more, from cold weather gear to the best items for your fan cave. It is also Victory Monday. Shop right now at BFLOshop.com or visit any of their 4 locations at Transitown Plaza, Boulevard, Consumer Square, McKinley Mall, and the Walden Galleria Mall. And if you were listening, BFLO store, I apologize. I was excited to get into the show and hurried and rushed from getting in the door like in 7 minutes to getting maybe 10. But yeah, I like texted Jerry from the truck in the driveway. I'm coming. I swear I'm on my way. Final thoughts before I get us out of here?
No, I thought it was a great team win. That was as good of a team game as we played in quite some time. And I know we were stressed at the end. You want to put all that on Mark Andrews. You do whatever you want. Yeah. Honestly, it wasn't the greatest of throws, but he still sort of caught it. But no, great team victory by the Bills. That's the things you need to do to win championships.
Yep.
And I'm really looking forward to this week.
This week, we've got the aftermath sometime tomorrow before noon. And I know that doesn't do much for people, but it is what it is. And then I have no idea what's going to happen with the Off Tackle with John Fina show tomorrow, because John is going to be flying out of Buffalo, maybe because we're expecting a winter storm. Tomorrow, or it's actually sort of happening right now, and so we'll see if he actually makes it out on his flight, but maybe we can pre-record or figure something out. Tuesday on the beat, you have 2 special guests for on the beat.
Yes, we got fellow partners from the Believe Network, Adam Bonini and Sal Moriana. They will join us on Tuesday night for the On the Beat show. I'm excited about that, man. I love those 2. They bring a great perspective. Yeah. Kind of like your modern day Felix and Alex from The Odd Couple.
Yeah.
I'll let you figure out who's who.
Wednesday is the Humpty Hotline with myself and Jay Spence the King. And then Thursday, the Overreaction first preview of the game that's coming up next, which will be the Kansas City Chiefs with Jerry Strosky on the Big O Show, where the most important thing for your entire week leading into the next game are the 5 keys to victory. So please make sure that you tune into that with Jerry, and he always has obviously Dr. Brad on to talk about injuries. But yeah, with that, I'm going to get us out of here, if that's all right with you, Jerry.
No problem.
Appreciate you guys joining us. It's been a great show, a little bit long. Apologies for that, but it was a great football game. We had a lot to talk about. The conversation just flowed, which is always a good thing. But yeah, tune in this week. Don't miss a single episode, and tune into a bunch of creators. There's a lot of great Buffalo Bills content creators out there that we're friends with, that we're really close with, and pay them a little bit of time as well. This is a great week to soak up the Buffalo Bills, the Bills Mafia content creation stuff. But good to have you guys. Buffalo Bills are on their way to Kansas City, AFC Championship game. I may be looking for flights. Maybe not, but maybe. I'll let you guys know. But for me, for John, for Jerry, we appreciate all of you guys. This has been the Overreaction post-game show powered by on the Overreaction Sports Network, powered by Believe, brought to you by, the BFLO store. And for me, for John, for Jerry, appreciate you guys. Go Bills.
Much love. Go Bills.
Go Bills.